Well, thank you for speaking with me. And it's about the 9/11 anniversary, and but maybe we can start with the happy part about your baby. And
happy part.
So tell me about her. What did you end up naming her?
We ended up naming her Molly, as you can see.
Yes.
And like I told you on the phone, it's important to me that I incorporate, either Mary Alice or Carolyn Ann, somewhere in a name we use sometime. But Molly is my husband's nickname for me, and he was pretty set on naming our first daughter after me. So I lost on that one. But yeah, in the future, it's kind of a big thing in my family. A lot of my siblings, my sister just named her daughter Mary Alice, a little spin-off of Mary Alice. But she was a huge part of our lives, and even my Aunt Carolyn was. And so it's important to me that I'll incorporate their names sometime in our family. But with this little one, we just went with Molly. My husband won, so. But so yeah, she's kind of named after me, I guess you could say. She has no middle name, so.
Yeah.
Yep.
And how many weeks early did you have her?
I was 37 and a half weeks, so about 2.5 weeks early.
Okay.
And really, really blessed that she was perfectly healthy, besides the jaundice, which is very common, so it's not a big deal at all, but very healthy, lots of answered prayers. I was pretty nervous about being induced. But everything went smoothly, and no complications, which was really, really nice, yeah.
And why did you have to be induced?
It's a disease called cholestasis of pregnancy. Actually runs in, it can be genetic. My sister had it, and I was at high risk because my sister had it, and then I started showing symptoms, and doctors don't know a ton about it, but that's why they take the babies early, is because there's been stillborns and complications with that, and so just to be on the safe side, they don't like to let babies go past 38 weeks with someone with cholestasis. And so, yeah, and I was pretty excited to just experience going into labor on my own and doing that, but you make the most of the situation, and it was very nice. Everything was very nice. I was really happy with how the birth went. Yeah, so it was good.
What were the symptoms that you knew?
So yeah, it's really weird actually. It's just itchiness of the palms and the bottom of the feet, and there's no visual signs of rashes, because what cholestasis is it's like a malfunction of the liver, gallbladder, and so bile salts get into the blood stream, and so the main symptom is itchiness of the hands and feet exclusively, and it's really strange. You put itch creams on it, and nothing topical helps because it's in the blood, and so that's kind of how you know. It's if you're doing all these itch creams and nothing's helping, and I had a family history of it. The doctor was like, yeah, that's what it is. So kind of interesting, and yeah, it's you look it up on the internet, and it's just weird. It's symptoms, itchiness, and hands and feet.
That's it.
Great. It's kind of random. So.
When did that start for you?
Probably about a little over a month ago. I didn't experience it my whole pregnancy. It was maybe when I was 35 weeks.
Oh, okay.
So, and my sister, who had to be induced and deliver early as well, started showing symptoms around 36 weeks, and then they took her baby at 38. So yeah, it's later in pregnancy.
Did you kind of know as soon as it started that was?
Yeah, and I was kind of really aware of it because of my sister, and I knew what to look for. I knew the symptoms, and so when it came up, I was like, oh, it was pretty obvious that's what it was. And like I said, it's kind of it's not extremely rare, but doctors don't know a lot about it, and so it's kind of a strange thing, kind of random.
And does that just go away for you now that you've had it?
Yeah, it's instantly when the baby, and it's it's not just oh, I itch. It's insane itching. I couldn't sleep for weeks because of the itching. So it's intense, extreme. And so, all through labor, I'm itching like a maniac, and then as soon as she was born, it was instantaneous. It was just gone.
Wow.
It's really weird. Yeah, and they think that has to do something with the placenta, as soon as the placenta's out or whatever. And then my sister experienced the same thing. She's as soon as the baby was born, it was the biggest relief.
So good.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. I was had marks all over my feet and hands from scratching. It was pretty bad.
Oh.
But I feel like an insane person.
Yeah.
I know. My husband was like, "Stop, itchy." So, kind of an interesting experience.
Yeah. And you've given your kidney to your brother, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did that have any role in?
Cholestasis? No.
Yeah, or just even.
It's unrelated.
Delivery, or?
No. My scars are all stretched out now. It's really cool. No, I was really nervous to get pregnant because my surgery was very kind of worst case scenario. Surgery is what the doctors would tell me. There's a lot of complications. They went to take my kidney out, and there was like a web of blood vessels behind my kidney that they hadn't detected in all the testing. And so when they went to take it out, it just started a ton of internal bleeding. I had to have multiple blood transfusions. And when they went to sew me up, they lost a surgical needle inside my abdomen. And so, and it was just, surgery had been going on so long, I had been under anesthesia for so long that they just hurried and sewed me up and left the needle in there. Mm-hmm. And so, it was just complicated. My lungs collapsed in recovery. It was like a really bad surgery. Obviously worth it. I'd do it over and over again if I had to for the outcome for my brother. But pretty traumatic, and I was nervous because I've always wanted to be a mom, and I was nervous to get pregnant because of the needle. I didn't know if that would play a part in it. They said the needle is embedded itself back by my spine somewhere in muscle, and I was like, that's comforting, you know. But you always wonder, is that going to hurt the baby, or am I going to be able to have a normal pregnancy? And like I said, I was really, really excited that I was able to have a somewhat normal pregnancy, unrelated to the surgery at least.
Right,
so,
right.
But I had no complications. My kidney actually works amazingly well, and we kept a close watch on it throughout my pregnancy, the one kidney I have. And yeah, my health has been great since the surgery. Mm-hmm. No complications at all. My brother's doing amazing as well. So
tell me about your brother and the need for the kidney transplant and how you decided to do that.
So I'm gonna butcher this name. I don't even know if it's legit. It's like IgA nephropathy, I'm pretty sure is what it's called. And it's an autoimmune disease. It basically, his body just contracted it. It's not genetic. And he was applying to be in the FBI, or where they have to do the physical exams. And he basically went in to do a physical exam, and they found this kidney disease, and they said, you're eventually going to need a transplant, probably, years and years down the road. And it was only a couple years later that both his kidneys failed, and he had to be on dialysis. And I was actually at the University of Arizona at the time, going to school for my music major, and they have a great heart program down there. That's why I was in Tucson. And it's funny because when I was 16, and I was asked if I wanted to be an organ donor on my license, I was completely undecided. I was freaked out about the whole thought of organ donation, and I mean, a lot of that is immaturity of a 16-year-old, just not really knowing, not being educated enough about it. But I was only 4 years later when my brother's kidneys failed, and there was no hesitation at all. Once it was personal, and I saw how much he was suffering, I was like, when can you get me in to be tested? And I just had a very strong feeling. I'm a very religious person, and I just had a very strong impression and feeling that I was supposed to step forward and do that. And my parents were not excited about that because I'm their youngest child, and they're very protective of me. And my dad kept telling me, you have 6 other siblings, let them go get tested first. But I'm a very stubborn person, and I kind of took matters in my own hands, and I ended up being a perfect match. So at that point, they didn't argue it anymore, because it was almost it was almost a miraculous match. The doctors actually said that they don't usually see matches that close unless it's identical twins. And so it was an absolute perfect fit, and that's when my parents got on board with it, and they saw how passionate I was about donating, which to this day I look back and I kind of surprise myself when I read my journal, or and maybe it's just because of the complications, and in hindsight, it was just so scary, to go through it, but I almost, I guess I impressed myself, because I'm like, why was I so brave and so passionate about it? But in the moment, there was nothing that would sway my decision. It was just something I felt very strongly about, a very personal feeling that I can't really explain. But I've actually since then been involved with Intermountain Donor Services a lot, and I love volunteering with them. I've become very passionate about organ donation after seeing what it has done for my brother and for our family. And so,
go back to, you said when you saw how sick that your brother was, what stood out to you as far as his quality of life or how he was living?
Oh, he was lifeless. My brother, he was only 30 at the time. His whole life been extremely active, running marathons, extremely healthy, the biggest athlete in our family by far. And his color was gone, and he had to go to dialysis every other day for hours, and he was just a completely different person from that energetic Andy we all knew, who was fun-loving, laughing, happy, to now his skin is gray, and he has no energy. And something he used to always say is, dialysis is a way to stay alive but not a way to live, because you really can't have a lifestyle on dialysis when you have to go in every other day for so many hours, and then it wipes you out completely, and by the time you start feeling better from dialysis, it's time to go in again. You know what I mean? And so he was lucky he didn't have to be on dialysis very long, and that's what it's heartbreaking. So many people are on it for years and years, and it's a really big trial for a lot of people. But yeah, it just he wasn't himself, and he was just so sick all the time. It was a really sad time. I remember the first time he did dialysis, my mom called me and said he was just home, throwing up all night, just weak, and so.
And you were in Arizona?
I was in Arizona at the time. I was glad I didn't have to see that. But once I came home for the summer, I would go down and sit with him at dialysis, and I guess another thing too was at the center he was at, there was all these very sick, lots of them older people in the dialysis chairs, and then my 30-year-old young, active, fun-loving brother that's sitting there, and he fits right in, and it was hard for me to see that, and it was even harder once I decided to be to be a donor, and it was a perfect match. It was even harder to go back to the dialysis center and look around at those sweet people that are still waiting for a transplant, and that's what motivated me to get involved with volunteer work and whatnot, just because to see firsthand. So it was really eye-opening for me.
How soon after your brother started dialysis that you decided, I've got to get tested?
It was instantaneous. Really, I didn't see him on dialysis before I made the decision.
So you decided when you were in Tucson?
I decided when I was in Tucson. Not that my family believed me. They just thought I was being cute and, oh, that's cute, Mal. Nobody really took me seriously until I got home from Tucson and just kind of marched in. My dad's a pathologist at Ogden Regional, and I had at home brought it up to my parents multiple times, and they just said, let your other siblings get tested. You don't need to worry about this. You're only 20 years old. And I went up to my dad's lab and got blood typed. I wanted to see, if my blood was the right type as Andy's, and it was, and I just took that piece of paper into my dad's office, and I put it down, and I said, I'm his blood type, I'm going to go get tested at the university to be a donor. And that was kind of a turning point. And my dad said, okay, go ahead. So.
What was the blood type?
Oh, positive. So.
And what kind of, you said you volunteer with Intermountain Donor, what do you do?
Well, this is going to sound so lame. I got involved initially because I won a beauty pageant, Miss Kaysville for Heights, and that was my platform. So as Miss Kaysville Fruit Heights, I contacted IDS, and they kind of, for that year, let me be a spokesperson for them. I made appearances with them, doing speeches and going to health fairs. And then once I was able to pass the title, I competed at Miss Utah with the same platform, and then I passed the title. And I've just been volunteering ever since. And it, like last week, I had an event that I couldn't make because of the baby, but they wanted me to play my harp and speak at an unveiling monument in Salt Lake City. And my brother covered for me. He read a statement that I wrote out, and my sister played the harp in my place. But it's just any of those promotional events to get education. I've done car shows where you sit at a booth and you talk to people about organ donation. Health fairs are my favorite because they involve young kids, and you just see, once they're educated about how they think it's so cool, and health fairs are fun. And ever since my husband and I got married, he's thought the whole thing is just so great, and he decided to be a volunteer as well, so he volunteers with IDS now too. I don't know who's that is. Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Hey. How are you? Did I give you the right address? I gave myself. I went to the wrong street, so I'm glad you made it.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm a little late. All the construction on the
I know. This is
Hi.
Scott. This is
Hi.
Mallory.
Nice to
I'm
meet
Mallory.
you, Scott.
Good to meet you.
This is Molly.
Molly?
Molly. She's just little.
What a tiny little
Just a
head.
week, I know. Just a week.
My kids are like...
Really?
Like a giant.
Cool.
We could stop if you want to take.
No, just keep
Oh,
talking. That's
okay.
fine. Yeah.
So you were saying that your husband is a volunteer too? Do you want me to scoot over?
No, you're fine.
Yeah, he just recently signed on to be a volunteer just so we could go do events together. He went and watched me do a couple events, just as like a, I can't find the word for it. Just as like a side person, like from the sidelines. Like he just watched me from a distance talk to people about organ donation, and afterwards he was just like, "That is so neat, like you're so passionate about this," and he's become passionate about it too, especially because they often say that donors can very well become recipients someday of a transplant, because you're a higher risk because you only have one kidney now. And so because of that possibility, he's passionate about it too, because it's personal to us now. And so
She almost looks like she's smiling.
I know.
That's not up.
I know, isn't that cute? Yeah, we adore her. But we're biased.
And when you said the volunteering all started when you were Miss Kaysville, when was that?
I won, and you're gonna think I'm so crazy,
No,
so
it's
retarded. People are always like, "What?" Exactly a week after my surgery, I won Miss Kaysville Fruit.
Wow.
Kind of retarded, but it's my personality. It was something that
Wait,
we
how
told.
did you do that?
I don't know. We told my the director that I had awful complications, and I had only been home from the hospital a couple days, and I felt it had nothing to do with beauty pageants, because I'm not a beauty pageant person. This was the first pageant I'd ever done, and the only reason why I wanted to do it, the only reason why I signed up for it was to promote organ donation. I saw it as an outlet, an opportunity to do that, and when the surgery went so badly, and my mom and my family told me, you obviously probably can't do this anymore, told the director that I was out. I just remember those days leading up to the pageant just feeling like this is a great opportunity, and if I could at least stand, if I can at least stand and talk about this, go to the interview, and I just slowly started experimenting on my own. Like I realized I could walk okay. Like I walked with like a hunch and a limp, but I realized I could sit at the harp, and that was my talent. So once I realized I could sit at the harp, I said, I can walk, I can sit at the harp, I can obviously talk about this, I'm going to compete. And like my parents thought everyone thinks I'm retarded. And sometimes I feel stupid when I say it, but it had nothing to do with wanting a crown. It had everything to do with wanting to be a spokesperson, wanting to have some kind of voice, some kind of platform to stand on. And that gave me that opportunity, and it opened up a ton of doors for me. And so I'm grateful I did it, but it was absolutely insane. And we watched the videos and laughed our heads off at my house because it's pretty funny. And my sister was backstage, like, changing my clothes for me because I couldn't bend down. And
yeah, set the scene. So when you go in for your interview, it's in front of the whole audience? Or just
no,
a
so the
panel?
personal interview is earlier that day, and you just stand in front of a panel. I think it was like 10-minute interview. And, I think they were just impressed that I said, I donated my kidney a week ago.
But you walk in, like, hunched over.
Well, I mean,
right?
I just walked in really slow. I don't think they could tell that until I said something because, like I said, my sisters did my hair and gave me a nice business suit to wear. Mm-hmm. And but I was in so much pain. I was on a lot of pills, and couldn't really stand up that well. But I was able to stand there and talk for 10 minutes, and that's what I said. I just wanted to be able to talk about it because with the heart surgery, my brother, the instant the surgery was over, had color again, had his energy back again. It was like a complete miracle, a transformation had happened, and to see that firsthand, I wanted to talk about it, So.
And you had said that you were in surgery so long because of your collapsed lung, or two lungs?
The collapsed lung happened in recovery, so that was after the surgery. The surgery itself, I can't remember exact time. I think it was only supposed to be like a couple hours. Ended up being more like 5 or 6. Mm-hmm. And I had just been under for so long, lost so much blood, they just needed to hurry and close me up. And it was at that point when I was in recovery that I remember coming out of the anesthesia, and I remember when my lungs collapsed and I couldn't breathe, and hearing people do the code blue thing, and that was something that gave me nightmares for a long time. Wow. But yeah, and then I was in ICU for a while on a ventilator. So yeah, go ahead. You can do whatever you want.
So how long were you in the ICU?
I was on a ventilator for a day after the surgery, and then I was able to come off. And then I was in a different surgical ICU unit for a couple days, and then I was able to go to a normal floor, which was fun because I shared a room with my brother.
Oh,
It wasn't fun to see that he got to have pancakes and eggs and this normal breakfast, and they bring me this clear fluids diet. It made me kind of mad. But we joke about that too. But that was fun to share a room with him, even though I was so sick and he was doing so well. But it kind of made me feel like that. This is why I did this, because I could see how it just fixed everything immediately.
So how was he doing? Oh,
sorry. Is it possible to hold her?
Yeah, more towards you.
Well, almost 180 from where she is, so her head's on the side.
Oh, yes.
Is that possible?
Yep.
Cool. Didn't know how much.
Oh, baby.
She can't be moved.
She's a portable baby.
Can you still be sort of in that corner that you were though?
Yep.
Because in the light it's supposed to be this nice. Cool, thanks.
So how's he doing?
He's doing so well. No complications, no problems. He goes in, he gets checked. Oh, that was a big one. I'm sorry if you smell something. He gets checked. I don't know if it's weekly anymore, but every checkup he's done, it's perfect. The kidney's working well, so no complications with him yet. I mean, they tell you that transplants don't last forever. They say maybe 10 years, and we're just grateful for every day. And there was one hiccup about a month later where they said his kidney stopped working, and I wasn't going to get into this story, but I'll hurry and tell it. So his kidney stopped working. He was back in the hospital. It was only a month later. It was really hard for me, especially after what we'd just all gone through. And I was actually at a Miss Kaysville Fruit Heights event, and my parents waited to tell me till it was over, because it was this big, you know, the Davis County Gala is what it was called. And I got home, and they were like waiting for me to get home, sitting on the couch, and some of my siblings were there, and everyone had, you know, you can tell people have been crying, and that they were waiting to tell me something. And they said, you know, the kidney you donated stopped working. They're taking it out tomorrow morning. He's going back on dialysis. And that was a hard night. I cried for a really long time. And like I said, being a religious person, I prayed for a very long time as well. All night long. I don't think I got any sleep. And then the next morning around 5, my parents asked if I wanted to go to see Andy off into surgery. And I said I did. And we were going into the hospital, and I kept telling them that I think it's still going to be okay. And, you know, my dad said, well, they did a biopsy. The kidney tissue came back completely dead, and they decided to take it out. And I said, no, I still think that somehow it's going to be okay. And my mom always brings that up, that I said that going into the hospital, and they just, you know, thought it was nothing, just me being hopeful. And then we get in there, he's all prepped for surgery, and the doctor said he was going to go check the labs one last time before surgery, and he came back and said, I have no idea how it's possible, but your morning labs said your kidney started working again. So that was a little hiccup, and a thing my family calls that was a major miracle, as far as the whole transplant story goes. And that was something that the doctors still can't explain to this day, and they talk about still up there at the transplant center, that story. And since then, there's been no problem. So one hiccup. Where
Well,
they
big one.
Yeah, they said that it stopped working, but then it started again. So
That was at the U?
that was up at the U. But because of that, which is kind of nice, we realize how, you know, precious that gift was, a donation, and how every day counts. And because of that little experience, you're fine. Because of that experience, my brother, me, the family, we don't take a single day for granted as far as his health goes, and the kidney working. And we always talk about it at Thanksgiving and Christmas, and we talk about how, you know, one more year with the kidney, one more day with the kidney. And so I think that kind of made us a little more appreciative for the day-to-day instead of, you know, just hoping for the 10-year. Do you know what I mean by that? So
You're not taking that 10 years for granted.
exactly. And we hope for the best, but if something like that happened again, my brother and I always talk about, well, look at all this extra time we've had, you know, since that instance. So yeah, it's been a good experience.
Is he back to running?
He is. He's back doing all of his favorite things. He's a teacher at Davis High School, and he loves his job, and he's, yeah, very, very athletic. He loves biking. He does bike races and marathons, and yeah, his health's completely back, which is, it's nice to see him being himself again, you know. He loves triathlons. Like I said, he's the most athletic in our family. We always, my siblings take turns asking him to be like our personal trainer.
In shape, huh?
So yeah, he does good with that.
Well, you talk a lot about the miracles that have happened. How do you think about your grandmother and your aunt with 9/11? How do you think about?
Like, just in general? I think that for me personally, I know I speak for my family as well, but a lot, just for me personally, I mean, 9/11 happened when I was so little, and I really struggled with the whole thing, and I think it was the first time I lost anyone really close to me, and it was such a public national loss. You know, the day we found out, there was news people parked on our lawn, and it's like you couldn't even go home and have privacy. It's just we had everybody wanted to talk to us, and it was just such a public event, and it was really, really hard for me, being only 12, to handle that. And but something I've definitely learned from experiencing that and going through 9/11 with my family is that when bad things happen and when tragedy strikes, you kind of find yourself at a crossroads, and you can either let the tragedy bring good, or you can let it, hinder you, and you kind of have a choice. You can either take that as an opportunity to grow, or you can take it as an opportunity to, stunt your growth. And through that, like every hard thing I've experienced in the last 10 years, I've made the decision to find the good in, and try to make it a positive thing. And as hopeless as 9/11 was, it kind of taught me how to hope, and how to have hope for the future, and how when bad things happen, you I don't know. It's hard to put into words, but you kind of know what I'm saying.
Yeah. So is that something that your family really talked about? The choice you could make?
No,
or
but
is that something you just learned on your own?
Kind of on my own. I'll never forget the morning after September 11th, because I didn't want to go back to school, and my mom, of course, was just like, of course, stay home, and my dad, I was sitting on my kitchen floor, and my dad comes walking out, and my dad has never been the same since 9/11. I mean, if anyone was close to my grandma and Aunt Carolyn, it was him. Like, his sister was his best friend, and he went down to, his mom's house every night. Like, if the tragedy made an impact on anyone the most, it was him. And so that morning, to see him come out in his work clothes, I was really shocked, and I said, "Dad, what are you doing?" And he said, "I'm going to work." And I said, "You're going to work?" I was like, "Why are you going to work?" And he's like, "Well, why are you going to school?" And I was like, "Because I don't want to, talk to people. I don't want to face people, because I'm sad. Like, I want time to mourn, And my mom was just like, "Norm, let them have their time to deal with this." And he was just like, "Okay, well," he's like, I'm gonna go back to work." And he did it because and this is like what I take from that is, like, when tragedy strikes, you can't let the tragedy of yesterday keep you from living today, and you can't let it keep you from living tomorrow. And I did that for a very long time when I was young, and it just happened. I just wanted to kind of clam up and crawl into a hole, and I didn't want to talk to people. And going back to school was hard because everyone had seen my family on the news, wanted to talk to me about it. But my dad looked at it as an opportunity to serve, to reach out, and he went back to work, and bad things happen, life goes on, type thing. And it was more from that example, that one instance, that kind of reminded me of that, and how he's dealt with the whole thing since. Because, like I said, he suffered the most, and he cries about it the most, and yet you wouldn't know it because of how he's done so much outreach and service. And so that's less about talking about it and more just about watching.
So how do you think, you said that anytime you face a difficulty, you think of that. Can you think of, maybe it was your kidney surgery, is that when it came up, or are there other times you're thinking that lesson spoke to you?
Definitely the two most traumatic things in my life have been 9/11 and then kidney surgery. But I've lost grandparents since then. Nothing as dramatic, and I'm not as close to those grandparents, so it wasn't as, that was old age and a natural cause. But mainly the surgery. That was I almost lost my life, donating my kidney, and it was a scary time. And so that's mainly what it is, but even just the day-to-day challenges and, dealing with that absence, because it's funny, because I was thinking about it this morning. I was only 12 when my grandma died, and yet I have so many memories and so many, she's such a huge part of my life, and since then has been such a huge part of my life, that to me it's amazing that I was so young. Does that make sense? Just because I feel like there was so much time. And she was my biggest cheerleader in everything I've done. I've always performed, danced, done music, piano, harp, and she never missed a performance. She never missed anything. She was always there, and it's kind of carried on. It was hard for me to perform after she died, and I would always cry backstage thinking about her not being there, and yet since then, every performance I do, I think about her. And I always wear a piece of her jewelry. It's good luck. I have a pair of pearls that were hers, and they have a little diamond in them, and they're kind of become a good luck charm on stage with the harp for my graduation recital, and when I toured with the University of Arizona around Europe and Brazil, every single performance I play for my grandma, and she still is a huge part of my life, and she still inspires me. She had such a zest and an excitement for life that if ever I'm feeling sorry for myself or down on myself, I'll think of her, because she never did. She was always happy, and she was always inspiring others. So it's the little things more than huge traumatic things that I have experienced, but more just the daily, upsets in life that I've learned from. So.
Do you have a small picture of your grandma?
Yes, I don't have it here though.
Oh, okay.
I keep one. I'm so sorry. I know you told me to bring one, but it's at my mom's house, and so because we just moved here a couple weeks ago, and it's in a moving box. So I'm sorry.
How late does this? How soon does it run?
Because I could get it.
Or it's due on Wednesday, but it probably doesn't run until 9/11.
Is there a chance you could just make a cell phone picture and email it to somebody?
Oh, sure. Of just her, or
just the picture?
Oh, you just want the picture?
Yeah, just to
yeah.
So readers can see what your grandma looked like.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
How do I get that to you?
I can
give
give
number?
You a card, or I'll just write down my email.
Or an email, and I'll email it to you. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be easy.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, I have a small picture frame that I've had since the 9/11, and I always keep it in my house, but we just moved here, and it's in a box, so I haven't been able to find it.
And the pearls you mentioned, are they earrings or
yeah, they're earrings.
Necklace or?
They're in there.
Okay.
If you want me to get them out, I can.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, they're just earrings. I have multiple pieces of jewelry that I trade off wearing. A watch that I love because it stopped, and it's just kind of stopped in time, and it's my favorite piece of jewelry that I've inherited from her, because to me it just kind of represents eternity. She, even though she's not here anymore, and that time's not ticking for her anymore, but she's still there, and that I love that watch more than anything I own.
Okay, well that's pretty perfect. Can you wear that?
Yeah. Yeah, do you want me to get it? Yeah, I'll tell you how to get it.
Okay. You're kind of set.
Open up the very top of that. You can lift up the laptop. The laptop.
Oh.
Just lift it up, and then the top.
Oh, I
opens.
see this thing.
Yeah.
What time is it stopped at?
So, you're gonna think I'm a psycho person.
No.
Do you see a little gold watch?
This one?
Yep. Okay. So, it was stopped at 8:30, and the first time I watched it, I was wearing it, and it. I don't like telling you these things because you think I'm weird.
No, I don't.
But the first time I got it, I inherited it, I didn't wear it for a while, and I kept thinking I was going to get it fixed. And then I wore it one day as a bracelet, and I was absolutely obsessed with that idea that it's just stopped in time, like my grandma. And the day ended and I looked down and it had moved. It had moved a little bit, and it doesn't tick, it doesn't do anything, but the big hand had moved. And every time I've worn it since, it moves a little bit, but it doesn't move when I take it off. And I swear I'm not crazy, because I've showed it to my husband. It's kind of creepy.
Is there a chance that you could hold your hand in such a way that Molly's little hand could be near the watch?
Oh, cute. As long as she doesn't explode in the pants again. I don't know about
Oh, she's sweetie.
Here, you can fix it.
If you were to put your hand, you had it up there just a bit, and then I think if you don't mind, I'll just
Yeah, just put her on it.
yeah, there you
Oh.
go. If she'll,
She
she likes that idea.
Your mom's
I better get ready, because if it happens, it'll happen fast.
cute little mom.
Is that hard to have her without your grandma around?
Yeah. Really hard when, so she's my parents' 12th grandchild. And when
Great.
9/11 happened, they didn't have any grandchildren. In fact, my oldest brother had just announced at my grandma Wahlstrom's house that they were pregnant, and they did it at my grandma Wahlstrom's house because they knew she would just be the most excited out of anyone. And she was. She could not wait to be a great grandma. And she never lived to see Isabel born, but I always think that each one of the grandkids that come down know her. In fact, Jack, my one nephew, my sister-in-law says that she always talks about my grandma being Jack's guardian angel, and how Jack knows her because there's a picture of, my grandma in their home as well. And when Jack saw it for the first time, she said he just got this huge smile on his face. And they thought, just a gas smile, just nothing big deal. But every single time that they show him a picture of my grandma, he smiles and he laughs, and it's like recognition. And he's done that since he was a baby, and I've always thought about that as far as these little babies come down and they've already met her, and I definitely thought about that when she was born, that my grandma was there, and that Molly knows her. But it is hard. It's hard because so much of my life has changed and so much has happened, and I talk about her all the time to my husband, and I just tell him how much I can't wait for him to meet her someday. But it's hard. It's hard to have such a different lifestyle now, and to have so many things that have happened in my life that she wasn't able to be a part of firsthand, and that will always be hard, I think. But and with my aunt, I was so close to my aunt, but we still see her daughters were able to come to my wedding, and they were able to see me when I was pregnant with Molly, and so you still have those connections and those ties that make you feel close to these people that we've lost. But it is hard. I think it'll always be hard, no matter. And it's weird that it's the 10-year. Like, people keep talking about the 10-year anniversary, and it's just weird that so much time has passed. It feels like a lifetime longer than that, and it also feels like it happened yesterday because the feelings are still so raw. And like I said, even though there's healing and hope, and we've done the best that we can with the situation, and you move on and you make the best of it, but it's amazing to me how hard it is to come around to the anniversary every year. And I used to think that that God made it so that my husband's birthday was September 11th because he knew that I struggled with it so much.
Is that right?
Yeah, his birthday's September 11th. And then when her due date was September 6th, and I was just like, I swear there's a message telling me that I need to just be happy about the anniversary every year, because I have so many reasons to be happy, but I still struggle. I still get really sad on the anniversaries, and it's more just, it's hard to see the media, the pictures again. It'll always be painful. I still look away when I see pictures or video footage, I just can't watch it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I struggled in Tucson. My harp teacher helped me write songs to, you know, feel better about it. And it's just been a long process. And I think because I was so young, it made such an impact on me. But yeah, moved forward. Things are really good now, but it'll always be there.
And how close were you to your grandma? You said she lived down the street from you?
She lived down the street. I'd walk down to her house all the time. The neighbors always talked about how they'd run into her at the grocery store and she'd say, "Can't talk now, gotta hurry. Kids are almost home from school, gotta make them cookies, gotta make them a cake." She was always just stopping in, or we were going down there. I loved being at my grandma's house. Loved it. Her house always smelled like chocolate chip cookies. And she always, for some reason, she would always offer me toast or chocolate ice cream. I don't know why. Really random, but
So
yeah,
you
just
would go there
walking
every
distance.
day after school? That
Not every day, but I saw her at least 3 times a week, if not more. She was in our church ward. Saw her every Sunday. But I danced maybe at least 4 times a week downtown, where we lived in Kaysville. And it was kind of a tradition that after my dance classes, my dad would pick me up and we'd go to my grandma's house. Just in the evening time, just to talk and visit. And like I said, my dad was so close with her as well that I saw her at least 3-4 times a week, if not more. And we'd spend Saturdays down there working in the yard, spending time with her. And if I didn't go down there, like I said, she'd pop in and come home from school. There'd be fresh cookies and cake, and she was so involved with our lives. And that's why I say it's weird that I was only 12, because I have so many memories and I'm so attached to her in such a short amount of time in my life. But she was that involved. And she was just that close. And it's funny because I think all of us feel that way about her. It's not just me. It's not just my siblings. It's, you know, Carolyn's daughters and the other cousins on that side. Everyone was that close to Grandma. That's just the kind of grandma she was. But I was especially lucky because I lived up the street. And so everyone my cousins used to be jealous of that.
Did you live on the same street, or
Yeah.
just around the block or something?
It was just around the block. We're like not in a neighborhood, but like you walk down the street, it was like a 1-minute walk, not 2.
What are some of your favorite memories of her?
So my dad grew up in living Air Force Base to Air Force Base. My grandpa was in the Air Force, and so my grandma used to always take my sister and I to the base, the Hill Air Force Base, and I remember one time she was so excited, she said, "I've heard the newest rage is Beanie Babies." And she said, "If you have to go get guys a Beanie Baby." And so she took my sister and I to the base and bought us 2 Beanie Babies, and from there we collected, and now we have like hundreds of Beanie Babies. But she bought us our first Beanie Babies, and trips to the base, I loved those memories. She also would always just call and ask my mom if she could take me to the movie. And with every movie outing we'd go to the mall and get a pretzel. She always bought us pretzels. And so that was a big memory with her, is getting pretzels and going to the movie theater. The last movie I saw with her before she died was Princess Diaries. And I used to always say that Julie Andrews reminded me of her. So little things like that. She would always offer to take me to my dance lessons. And like I said, her cookies, we all still talk about her cookies. She wouldn't write down the recipe. Nobody knows what it is. We've all tried to multiply it, duplicate it. They were to die for, and I don't know. And she always had them fresh. They were always at her house, always on the counter. She's like the grandma described in a book type grandma. She's just, also Christmas time. Every Christmas we had a tradition to go and drive around and look at the lights on the houses. And my grandma would get so excited about it. And some of the kids would grumble, like, "We don't want to go do this." But like every house we saw, it could be like this house had one light bulb on it, and she was like, "Oh, isn't that the most amazing thing you've ever seen?" Like she was just on the edge of her seat the whole drive looking at Christmas lights. That was a fun tradition with her. And then I guess in just general, she never, when we'd go and pick her up, because we'd go and pick her up a lot to go do things with the family, she would run out of the house. She never walked. Like she would run. My grandpa would come sauntering behind her, and she would just book it from the front door down the stairs into the car. She was always just so excited. Like no matter where we were going, she'd run. And she was the worst movie critic in the world because she loved every movie. It was like, that was the worst movie I've ever seen. And she was like, oh, that was the best movie. And we always joked about, don't listen to Grandma because she loves everything. She loves every movie. But just all happy. Just all really happy. And I think of my grandma, I think of her laugh, and I think of my dad laughing. And I have no memories of her being sad or upset. She was just always such a light in our home. And she's just, everything was fun to her. Sunday dinner, she'd always ask, how many rolls are you on? And I'm like, I'm on 3. And she's like, oh, I'm on 4. And then we'd try to one-up each other who would eat more homemade rolls. She asked that every Sunday, how many rolls have you had? And like, just so she didn't feel guilty that she's had 3. I'm like, I've had 4. And she's like, okay, good, then I can have one more. So, anyways, just very...
Do you think her example helped you know how to handle 9/11 and to...
Oh, definitely. I remember something my grandma used to always say is she'd say, do you know what I'm so most scared of? And I'd say, what? And she said, that nobody will come to my funeral. And I'd say, that's a really weird thing to be afraid of. She's like, no, like, really, what if nobody comes to my funeral? What if it's one of those empty, buildings, nobody's at the gravesite? And she's like, wouldn't that just be awful? Wouldn't that just be the most horrific thing? And I remember the day of her funeral, it was like, news stations, and First Presidency of the Church had a person come, and it was packed, like, into the lobby, and it was such a sad day, and yet we were all kind of chuckling, because we're like, well, she definitely got people at her funeral. And I used to always think that, and that was something my dad would always verbalize and remind us, that she would not want us to deal with it in that way. And every time I was struggling, every time I've struggled since, I think about her attitude about life, and I just picture her being like, come on, it's fine. No, I believe she still exists, and she's still there, and I'll see her again someday, and it's just a see you soon, type situation. But it's definitely helped me through everything, because she was so happy, and nothing ever got her down, and so I have to remind myself that she wouldn't want me to be down either. So, very much so.
She's so peaceful.
Yeah, I'm really happy she's doing so well. I'm like, don't get hungry.
I'm almost done.
Oh, you're fine.
Let's see. Do you think with your kidney donation, do you connect that at all with your grandmother? Like, do you think that played a role in you're wanting to do it? Or, I mean, obviously you wanted to do it for your brother.
Yeah, I think just in general, she inspired me to be a more giving person. She was constantly giving, constantly serving, and she always comes to my mind when I make decisions like that. But she definitely played a role. I mean, I was very motivated by my brother's health and by love for my brother, but there is always an underlying example. My grandma was the ultimate example of love and service, and I definitely felt like I wasn't alone going into surgery, and that she was there, and she does inspire me in that way, for sure. I mean, I wouldn't say it was the direct motivation, sure, but she's the ultimate example of that. And I think a lot of my bravery came from that, because it was such a scary thing, and in hindsight, I think, how did I do that? But
you think your bravery came from her?
From her example, mm-hmm, and just feeling like I wasn't alone going into surgery, And as morbid as it sounds, I've always thought that I'm not scared of death. I'm not scared of anything because she was going to be there to greet me, and that's like the happiest thought ever. So.
So, were you in school when you learned that your grandmother had died on 9/11, or were you still home? How did you get that news?
It was picture day. I hate that picture. It was picture day, and I was in 7th grade, and I woke up. I woke up at 6:30 so my mom could do my hair, because I still wasn't very good at doing my hair. And I came down the stairs, and it's really strange, but I sat there. And wasn't it, is 6:45 our time? Wasn't it? I forget.
Sounds right.
That doesn't sound right. I just remember I connected it because I sat on the stairs, and it was because I was tired, but I woke up early and the house was still dark. My mom was just still getting up, and she said, "Okay, I'll call you in a minute. Let me get, my bathroom cleaned out." And I just sat on the stairs, and we have a grandfather clock right by our stairs, and I just kind of sat there as the time went from 6:30 to 6:45. Finally sauntered in to my mom's room around 7, but I just sat and watched the clock, and I always remember that because it was when it happened, and I just remember that moment sitting in my house in the dark in the morning, not necessarily thinking of anything, just being tired, but just being awake when it happened and remembering that. And I went in, and my mom let me obviously choose what to watch while she was doing my hair, and I was watching cartoons, and the phone rings, and it was a family friend, because my sister Mary was supposed to be flying out to Germany on a mission that day. We were all supposed to go to MTC and go see her off to Germany. And the phone rings, and one of her friends says, "Is Mary still going out today?" And my mom said, "Yeah, she's all planned." And she said, "Well, haven't you heard? Are you not watching the news?" And she's like, "I don't think flights are going to be going out today." And so my mom changes the channel as I was saying, "Hey, Dad, so I'm watching this." And, that image of the first tower being hit, and then the phone rings again, and it's my uncle. And my mom's talking to him in these, frantic tones. "I don't know what flight they're on. I don't know. I don't know anything. I don't know details." And I'm just staring at the screen, and I was so confused. I didn't know what I was looking at, And when she gets off the phone, she's like running out of the room, trying to find out the flight number. She's trying to get a hold of my dad at the hospital. And I just kept asking her, "Mom, what is this? Like, what is this?" And she's like, "A plane's hit that building." And I was like, "Well, why isn't anyone going up there? Like, get those people out of there." And she's like, "Well, the people that were on the plane aren't alive anymore, obviously." And I was so confused. I don't know why I was so confused, but in my mind, I just pictured, like, survivors of an airline crash in this building, and very confused. And my mom just said, "Hurry and go get ready for school." And she's like, "I need to, make phone calls." And so I went and finished getting ready, and I came downstairs, and I overheard her talking to my dad on the phone, and she said, "Is that Mary Alice's flight?" And my dad couldn't confirm, and he said he didn't know for sure, and he needed to have the airline call him, and so I went to, my mom insisted I go to school, and she said, "Nothing's for sure yet." She's like, "It's probably fine." And I said, I was in tears, and I said, "Is it possible that was Grandma?" And she said, don't even think about that, And so I went through the whole day at school, and such a historic day. I'll never forget that day. Basically every class, we just watched the news, and everyone was talking about it, and I was just
awful for you,
fear.
Sure.
Yeah, I just all day long just had the worst, like, nauseating feeling in my stomach. And I was trying to be hopeful and trying to say that there's no way that she could have been on that flight. And after school, I get into my carpool, and the lady in my neighborhood turns back, and she said, "Mallory, did you hear the news?" in front of my whole carpool. And I said, And I didn't confirm because I hadn't heard anything, but I did not want to hear it from her if it was what I thought it was. And so I just said, yeah. And I just hurried and looked down, and she was just like, oh, I'm sorry about that, and drove home, and she didn't say another word to me, but I didn't want to hear another word. And I was just like trying not to cry, and I ran into my house in the front door, and my mom was just waiting for me, and I just, stopped and looked at her, and she just nodded. And that's all she did. She just nodded, and I just started crying. So it was really, at least my sister heard it on the radio, so I consider mine a little better. But it was my sister. It was there from the MTC, and she told me to go downstairs because the media was there, and I went downstairs, and my grandpa was just sitting on the couch, just kind of staring at the TV, kept asking where Mary Alice was, and it's just, every detail of that day is like seared into my brain. Every single one. It's like the moments just went by so slow. And so that's how that day went.
Was she on the first flight or the...
Flight 11, the first plane to hit. So, our house smelled like a funeral home. So we had so many flowers. Those flowers that just smell like a funeral. It's like every inch of our floor was covered just from random strangers sending flowers. So there's a lot of outreach and a lot of community support that I'm always grateful for, and cards and things, and it helps, So.
She looks hungry. My last question, just on the 11th, what will you be thinking about on this 10-year anniversary?
This 10-year anniversary, well, like I said, I'm grateful that I have a happy excuse to think of something else. And I'll definitely be trying to figure out what to get my husband for his birthday. He always talks about it's kind of an awkward birthday to have in my family because we're all so depressed and sad. And but yeah, I'll try to think about his birthday. But my family's doing a lot for the anniversary. My mom's involved with a lot of memorials, and my dad's involved with a lot of speeches. And I think more than anything, I'll just be thinking about how the good things that have come from such an awful experience, and more on not on a national scale, but on a personal scale. How I've grown, how I've learned to deal with things in life, how my family's grown closer, how it's hard not to just focus on the loss. But I think with a 10-year anniversary, so much time has passed that it does give you a chance to stop and focus on the positive and what good has come from something that seemingly would be nothing good would come from it, So just my parents are very inspirational to me, and I love listening to them speak, and it's a big anniversary, so I'll be hearing them speak a lot about it, and I look forward to that, and they always give me hope, So just trying to stay positive and,
Just so clear, when you think about how you've grown, are you talking about how you look at an experience you can choose to grow or not? Is that what you're referring to?
Mm-hmm. Just not letting bad things keep you from living today or tomorrow. Because that's definitely what I've learned from 9/11, because I struggled with that at first, just wanting to climb up and not move. But my grandma wouldn't want that, and neither do I, So I've grown a lot as a person. It's just weird that 10 years have gone by. It seems like such a long time. So
It sounds like you think of her every day, though, and she's still very much...
I really do. And she is very much a part of my life. It's funny how often she influences me to this day in her example. And like I said, every time I perform my instrument, every time I give a speech, I think about her, and I talk to her, and she inspires me. In fact, I struggled with performance big time, and she got me over that, and it's thinking of her and thinking of her being there and performing for no one else in the room except for her, because she was always on the edge of her seat at my performances, front row. And so I still think about that, and performance is a huge part of my life. This was my major, and you know, I play weddings and I perform my harp all the time, and the fact that, you know, I wear my good luck earrings and think about her, yeah, easily I think about her every day. And especially with this little one, I keep asking her what messages she has from Grandma.